Marcus Halden realized something had gone very wrong when 3 armored palace guards politely surrounded him while he was eating glowing fruit. Only 10 minutes earlier, he had been a normal tourist. Now he was apparently part of a royal marriage ceremony. Marcus had arrived on the alien world of Iera with confidence that only a slightly reckless traveler could have. He had read 3 travel blogs and watched 2 videos about the planet. According to those sources, Iera was famous for its floating cities, glowing oceans, and friendly alien culture. None of those guides had mentioned anything about accidentally becoming a candidate to marry a princess. The capital city of Era looked like something from a dream. Tall crystal towers curved into the sky, shining softly in the sunlight. Bridges of light connected the buildings. Small transport drones floated through the air like silver birds. Marcus stood in the main plaza, turning slowly in a circle. "Okay," he said quietly to himself. "This place is amazing." Tourists from dozens of alien species walked through the plaza. Some had scales. Some had wings. Others looked almost human. Nearby, a vendor sold glowing fruit that hummed softly when someone picked it up. Marcus bought one. It tasted like a peach mixed with a lemon. He liked it immediately. He held the fruit near his ear and listened to the humming sound. "I hope you're not alive," Marcus told it. The fruit hummed happily. Marcus laughed and continued walking through the plaza until he noticed a strange pavilion at the edge of the square. Above the entrance floated a glowing sign. His translation lens activated automatically. Traditional ceremonial registration. Cultural experience for visitors. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Well," he said. "That sounds harmless." Inside the pavilion were several floating consoles made of white crystal. Holographic displays showed elegant alien figures performing ancient ceremonies. A cheerful guide drone hovered nearby. Marcus walked up to one of the consoles. "Let's see what this does." The console lit up immediately. "Welcome, participant." Marcus smiled. "I like the word participant." The console asked simple questions. Species. Homeworld. Visitor status. Marcus answered them easily. Human. Earth. Tourist. Then the system asked for an identification scan. Marcus held his travel ID chip near the console. A soft blue beam scanned it instantly. The system paused for a moment. Deep inside the ancient palace network, old ceremonial algorithms activated. Legal protocols began processing the new registration. Marcus did not notice any of this. He was too busy reading the next message. Ceremonial status confirmed. "Wow," Marcus said. "That was fast." Another line appeared. Candidate entry accepted. Marcus frowned slightly. Candidate for what? The console simply displayed a cheerful message. "Thank you for participating in Iron cultural tradition." Marcus shrugged. "Okay then." He stepped back outside into the plaza and continued eating his humming fruit. Somewhere far away inside the royal palace, a council terminal quietly displayed a notification. New candidate registered. Royal marriage ceremony. Princess Yora. Species. Human. Status. Valid. The system had accepted the registration perfectly. Unfortunately, the human responsible for it had absolutely no idea what he had done. Marcus had just finished his fruit when a tall armored figure approached him. The armor shone with faint energy patterns. Marcus smiled. "Great costume." The figure did not react. 2 more guards stepped beside the first. Marcus slowly lowered his fruit. "Okay," he said carefully. "This suddenly feels official." The first guard spoke calmly. "Marcus Halden of Earth." Marcus pointed at himself. "Yes. You are requested to accompany us to the palace." Marcus blinked. "Requested?" "Yes. And if I say no?" The guard paused politely. "We would request more firmly." Marcus sighed. "Right. Palace it is." They escorted him through the city streets. People stepped aside respectfully as the small group passed. Marcus tried to stay calm. "So," he said casually, "this is about that registration console, isn't it?" "Yes." Marcus nodded. "I knew it." Soon they reached the enormous palace gates. The structure was even more impressive than the city outside. Crystal pillars stretched high above them like trees made of light. Marcus looked around in amazement. "Okay," he admitted. "This is nicer than my hotel." Inside a large chamber, several royal advisors stood around a floating holographic display. One of them looked up. "That is the human." Marcus raised his hand. "Hello. I'd like to apologize in advance for whatever I did." The advisor studied the hologram. "The system confirms that you completed ceremonial registration." Marcus frowned. "That seems unlikely." "Nevertheless, the law recognizes your candidacy." Marcus scratched the back of his head. "So technically," he said slowly, "I'm competing to marry your princess." "Yes." Marcus looked around the enormous chamber. Then he laughed nervously. "I feel like my vacation escalated very quickly." High above the chamber, someone else had been watching. Princess Yora stood quietly on a hidden balcony. She leaned slightly on the railing as she observed the confused human below. For years, powerful nobles had traveled across the galaxy hoping to win her hand in marriage. They arrived with grand speeches and political promises. But this human, he looked like a tourist who had taken the wrong bus. And somehow that made him the most interesting candidate she had seen in a long time. For the first time in years, Princess Yora smiled. Marcus had been inside the alien palace for exactly 27 minutes. During that time he had learned 3 important things about alien royalty. First, their hallways were extremely long. Second, their advisors were extremely serious. And third, apparently no one believed the sentence. "I pressed the wrong button." Marcus sat in an elegant chair across from several council members. A holographic screen displayed his life history. One advisor read it carefully. Human tourist. Occupation. Engineer. Travel history, moderately reckless. Marcus raised a finger. "I prefer the word adventurous." "The report says you once rented a hover scooter on Titan and accidentally entered a mining tunnel." "That tunnel was poorly labeled," Marcus said. Another advisor sighed. "The ceremonial system requires 3 confirmations and an identity scan." Marcus nodded. "Yes. I remember that part." "You completed all 3. Marcus leaned back. "Have you considered that your tourist exhibits might be too realistic?" Before anyone could answer, a calm voice spoke from the doorway. "They are not tourist exhibits." Everyone turned. Princess Yora entered the chamber. She moved with quiet confidence. Her long elegant ears curved gently through her dark hair. Marcus blinked. "Oh!" The advisors bowed immediately. "Princess Yora." Marcus looked between them. "Oh," he said again. Yora walked toward him, studying him carefully. "You are the human candidate." Marcus nodded awkwardly. "Yes. Unfortunately." "Unfortunately?" "Well," Marcus explained, "I came here to look at glowing fruit and alien buildings. I did not plan to apply for marriage." For a moment the room was silent. Then Yora laughed. It was not a polite royal laugh. It was genuine amusement. Marcus relaxed. "Good," he said. "Someone here has a sense of humor." Yora folded her arms. "You truly did not know what you were registering for." Marcus shook his head immediately. "If I had known it was a royal marriage ceremony, I promise I would have panicked much earlier." Yora smiled slightly. "You completed the ritual perfectly." "That worries me," Marcus replied. An advisor spoke carefully. "Princess, we could remove him from the ceremony due to unusual circumstances." "No," Yora said calmly. The room fell silent again. "For the first time," she continued, "someone has joined this ceremony without political ambition." Marcus raised his hand. "I joined because the sign said cultural experience." "That is exactly my point." Marcus sighed. "I feel like I walked into the wrong job interview." Yora turned toward the door. "I will personally guide him through the palace." The advisors looked shocked. Marcus stood up slowly. "I should warn you," he said. My orientation skills are historically terrible. Yora smiled. Come with me. They walked through the palace together. Outside the tall windows floated gardens filled with glowing trees. Marcus tried very hard not to touch anything. Important question, he said. Yes. Are there any more ceremonial consoles here? Many. Marcus immediately put his hands in his pockets. Good to know. Yora watched him with quiet curiosity. Most candidates spent their time giving speeches about alliances and power. Marcus spent 5 minutes staring at a plant that changed color when he walked past it. That plant turned purple because I looked at it, he said. It reacts to emotional energy. Marcus stepped away slowly. I apologize if I confused it. Yora laughed softly. The next morning the candidates gathered for the first ceremony trial. Marcus finally met the competition. There were 22 other candidates. Most were nobles. Some were military commanders. All of them looked impressive. Marcus looked down at his tourist jacket. Well, he whispered. I dressed for the wrong event. The first trial was a traditional glider flight through Crystal Canyon. Floating crystal shards created a dangerous maze in the sky. Marcus stared at it in horror. That place looks like it was designed to destroy beginners. You will manage, Yora said calmly. That is not comforting. The flight trial began. One by one, candidates launched their elegant gliders into the canyon. When it was Marcus's turn, he climbed nervously into the cockpit. I would like to inform everyone, he said over the communication channel, that my flying experience mostly involves emergency landings. No one laughed. The glider launched. Marcus screamed for the first 5 seconds. Then he focused. He remembered basic physics. Wind currents. Balance. Momentum. The glider responded smoothly. Soon he was weaving between giant floating crystals. Not perfectly, but successfully. When he finally landed, Marcus collapsed against the railing. I survived, he whispered. Several candidates looked shocked. Later that evening Marcus stood on a palace balcony beside Princess Yora. The glowing canyon shimmered in the distance. You completed the trial, Yora said. I bounced through the trial, Marcus corrected. The records say you succeeded. Marcus looked out at the horizon. Well, he said quietly. This is the part where I say goodbye. You are withdrawing. That was always the plan. He folded his arms. I never wanted power or a throne. I'm just a tourist. Yora studied him carefully. You do not seek alliances. No. You do not seek influence. No. You do not seek the crown. Marcus shook his head. I seek comfortable chairs and peaceful vacations. Yora laughed. After a moment she spoke again. For years, every candidate saw only the throne. They spoke to me like a symbol, not a person. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand that. You arrived with no plan, she continued. You asked honest questions. Marcus scratched his head. I also apologized to a statue. That was memorable. Marcus smiled slightly. Well, I'm glad I improved the ceremony. You did more than that. The council is already discussing changes to the system. Marcus blinked. So my mistake started political reform. It appears so. Marcus leaned on the railing. That's unexpectedly productive. The palace lights glowed softly across the night gardens. For a moment neither of them spoke. Finally Marcus turned toward the palace doors. Time to make the responsible decision. Marcus, Yora said. He looked back. You will always be welcome on Iera. Marcus smiled. I might take you up on that. He began walking toward the corridor. Then he paused. Next time I visit, he said, I'm not touching any registration consoles. Yora laughed quietly. And somewhere deep in the palace archives, the ancient ceremonial system recorded a very unusual result. For the first time in centuries, a royal candidate had entered the ceremony by accident and left as something far more important. A friend.